Hello, Packer fans, wherever you may be. It's time for another edition of the Pack Attack Cast. Things were a little slow as the Packers players were off yesterday, but today, December 3rd, 2025, we've got some news and updates. We've got some players that have been added to your Green Bay Packers to deal with some thinness at defensive tackle. We also have some accolades for Jordan Love to talk about today. And we have our first injury report for the week. So we're going to break all of that down in just a minute. But first, we're hoping to get to 15,000 subs by the playoffs. You can help us by hitting that sub button and joining our community. I'll pause while you do that. Excuse me. Did you go ahead and hit that sub button? Thank you very much. Let's go on to Packers news and notes today. And per Tom Silverstein today, the Packers signed nose tackle Jordan Riley off the Giants practice squad. The Packers announced they signed Riley, a 3-year veteran, off the New York Giants practice squad. Riley was a 7th-round pick of the Giants in 2023 and played 21 games with 5 starts for them in 2023 and 2024. So we know with Wyatt out for the rest of the season, we need some depth here. So I think this is actually a really smart signing by the Packers. This is a player who's been in 21 games and has had 5 starts. They're looking for him to be on the practice squad or the active roster right now. So he's going to be part of your nose tackle rotation. He is designed as a nose tackle, not a 3 technique. So that's why they're adding depth, because Wyatt is out for the season. So he's added to the active roster. He'll be part of the rotation. I would expect Riley to have a week to get into the groove before he gets into the rotational lineup. So we're going to be a little thin this week, but hopefully Riley will be up to speed before the Broncos game and can contribute at that time. Next news and note, and this is really good, and I'm excited to hear about this as a Packer fan. The Packers not only had practice today, but they had a padded practice. And that's very important because the Packers are only allowed to have 3 padded practices for the next 5 weeks per the collective bargaining agreement. So the Packers have been very frugal about using their padded practices, especially late in the season. And the fact that they used it today really tells me that the Green Bay Packers know that this is a division on the line. This is a must-win game against the Bears this week. So they're using their padded practice to get as much game action as possible, or practice action as possible, with pads, so as close to game action as you can be, for this game against the Bears. Incidentally, the Bears did not practice today. They're coming off of a game on Friday, so they're giving their players an extra day of rest today while the Packers are practicing today. So hopefully that extra day of practice might be key for the matchup this week. So we're going to watch that very closely. I'll bet that the Packers use another padded practice before the next Bears game in the next 2 weeks. The Green Bay Packers know the division is going to be won or lost basically with these 2 games. If the Packers win both of these games against the Bears, they will win the division. It's 92% assured, unless the Lions came up with some miracle opportunity. But if the Packers win against the Bears twice, they will be 5-0 in the division, and they'll have a 2-game lead over the Bears and a tiebreaker over the Bears because they swept them. So these 2 games are critical. Now, if they split, that's a different story. But the Packers, I believe, know that they need to win this game at home, which is why they're doing a padded practice today to take some of the pressure off of that road game in 2 weeks. Obviously, they would like to win against the Bears in 2 weeks. We get the sweep, and then the division is theirs for the losing, so to speak. So we're going to watch that very carefully. Next news and note, Jordan Love was named the FedEx Air and Ground Player of Week 13 after his 4-touchdown performance against the Lions. This is the second time this season that Jordan Love has won this award, and Jordan is now third, according to the odds makers, for the MVP race. Now, he's a very distant third, but he's still third in the MVP race, and he's really playing like an MVP player. And that's why my number one goal, and we'll talk about the Bears game starting next week, starting tomorrow, and Saturday and Friday, we're going to talk about how the Packers are going to beat the Bears. But my biggest thing is to put the ball in Jordan Love's hands and hope and force Caleb Williams to win the game on Sunday. We know Jordan Love can win big games with his arm. Can Caleb do that against one of the best defenses in the NFL on the road? Now, you could say he did that against the Eagles, but I did go back and watch that Eagles-Bears game. I'm going to tip my hat to the Bears for playing a really good game, but the Eagles really self-destructed in that game and really gave the Bears every opportunity to steal that game, which they did. So credit to the Bears for that. But I do firmly believe that if the Packers play their best game like they played against the Lions, I think they can beat the Bears without too much trouble this week. That's me being a Packer fan, but also being an analyst, and I still believe the Packers are the better team of the two. We're playing at home. I know that the Green Bay Packers fans are going to be rocking and rolling because this is the biggest Bear game in a decade. So I know the Packer fans are going to be out there and giving the Packers all the support that they need on the field. With that and Jordan Love as a potential MVP candidate, I feel really good about the Packers' chances. But one thing we really need to talk about right now is the injury report. So with practice today, we got the first injury report of the week. So let's take a close look at that. Injury report. Packers versus Bears, December 3rd. Injury report. Brought to you by Amplify Health. Let's look at the Packers first. We have Carl Brooks, limited participation. Carl Brooks is going to be very important in this game, along with Brenton Cox, who also had limited participation. We're going to need those guys to step up in the trenches and slow down the Bears' running attack. So Brenton Cox and Carl Brooks are very important. Javon Bullard, limited participation. Now, I should highlight the fact that when you see limited participation on a Wednesday, that generally means the players have some sort of a nagging injury and they're trying to treat it and give them limited participation so their body can recover from that injury. So when we see Carl Brooks ankle, Javon Bullard ankle, Edrin Cooper shoulder, Brenton Cox groin, Matthew Golden wrist, Nate Hobbs knee. Now this is a little different because he's missed a couple games, but hopefully the limited participation means that he'll be good for Sunday. We could really use Nate Hobbs to help get some Caleb interceptions. That would be great. Josh Jacobs, limited. Marshawn Lloyd, limited participation with a calf injury. I think Marshawn Lloyd's best chance of getting back onto the field is probably next week against the Broncos. We're going to have to watch that very closely. I'd love Marshawn Lloyd to be into the mix before the second game against the Bears. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. Next up, we have Jordan Love, shoulder, full participation.
Here are some results.
Hold on, everybody. Having a monitor issue. Thank you, Alexa. Alexa apparently thought I was talking to her. Still, hold on, everybody. Sorry about that. Technical issues. There we go. Sorry about that. We're back. Jordan Love, full participation. Colin Oliver, limited participation with a hamstring. I don't know if Colin Oliver is going to get back onto the field this year for the Packers. He's missed all of the preseason and training camp and the season so far. I just don't know realistically if Colin Oliver is going to get onto the field. My suspicion is he'll remain on the injured list for the rest of the year. Jaden Reed, foot and shoulder injury, limited participation. I think this is the week that Jaden Reed comes back in the slot for the Green Bay Packers, and that will be a next new X factor for the Bears to deal with, because Jaden Reed does not have anything on tape since week 2. So the Packers are going to have an extra dimension if Jaden Reed can play in this game. Darren Sorrell, limited participation with an ankle injury. Zach Tom, back injury. Lucas Van Ness did not participate. That's a big one. I think Lucas Van Ness might be back for the Denver game. I don't think he'll be back in time for the Bears. Quay Walker, really important. Limited participation with a neck injury. I do think Quay Walker will play this week, and we really need Quay Walker to help against the run this week. He is very dynamic. He's an athletic linebacker, and he's a great player to clog up those running lanes. So Quay Walker is a big get back, hopefully, for this week. We're going to have to track Quay Walker very closely for the rest of the week. Dontavian Wicks, ankle injury, limited participation. He did twist an ankle on his first touchdown last week against the Lions, but he did play the rest of the game. So I'm hoping Dontavian Wicks will be available for this game against the Bears. Savion Williams did not participate. He was seen with a boot on his leg. Hopefully that will progress later on in the week. Devontae Wyatt did not participate. Obviously, he is going to be put on the injured reserve for the rest of the year. So let's look at the rest of the week, okay? We could tell the Packers are planning to practice on Thursday and Friday. They will travel Saturday for the game. So what I'm really looking for is Friday's practice. Friday's practice is going to be super important. We're going to watch that very carefully for you. Let's take a look at the Bears. The Bears did not practice today. So these are simulated injury reports. Whether the player would play or not, or practice or not, if they practice today. So we have Andrew Billings, full participation. TJ Edwards, limited participation. Ruben Hippolyte, linebacker, shoulder, did not participate. Jalen Johnson, groin, full participation. Jalen came back last week against the Eagles, and he was a big part of their defense. So hopefully he will play for them. Now, this is interesting. Kyle Monangai, I'm going to butcher that name, Monangai, I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm going to butcher that so many times. Did not participate. He has an ankle injury. He got that in the game against the Eagles. So we're going to watch that closely Thursday and Friday and see if he participates. Now, the Bears might practice on Saturday since they don't have to travel, and they didn't practice today. So we'll have to watch that very closely. Romeo Odunze with a foot injury did not participate. That is a big person as well. We'll see if he fixes that foot by the end of the week. I suspect Odunze is just getting some veteran rest and some injury recovery since they didn't practice today anyways. Dominique Robinson, full participation. Noah Sewell, full participation. And Tyreek Stevenson with a hip injury did not participate. Now, Stevenson had been filling in for Jalen Johnson, but now that Jalen Johnson is back, I don't know how much Stevenson will impact the depth. It will impact the depth for the Bears, but not the starting lineup. So there's your updates. What we're going to do starting tomorrow, we're going to give you additional injury updates, and we're also going to give you the opportunity to get an update on how we're going to beat the Bears on Sunday. So that's what we're going to talk about. So tomorrow we're going to have some updates on injuries as always, and then we're going to start breaking down how the Bears are going to be defeated by the Packers this week. And by far the biggest thing is for the Packers to stop the run, sell out and stop the run, and have the passing attack for the Bears be the deciding factor in this game. Can Caleb Williams get a win if they can't run the ball? Because he did not play great against the Eagles. It didn't matter because they were running the ball so well. So what we need to do is force Caleb Williams to be the deciding factor for the Bears. If that happens, I think the Packers have an excellent chance. And we're going to talk more about that tomorrow. As always, go Pack Go. Enjoy your Wednesday night. And we will be back Thursday with an injury update and thoughts on keys to the game for the Packers versus the Bears. We'll see you then.